Well, as certain as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, Jurassic World Rebirth shall receive its sequel, scheduled to roar onto the big screen on the 9th of June 2028, 3 years after the start of the new era that was Jurassic World Rebirth. As of this video's making, this release date announcement is all we know about the upcoming 8th entry in the Jurassic Park franchise, with no confirmed information regarding cast, director, or story of any kind. Which makes this the perfect time to make a speculative video about what this sequel might look like and what we might expect off the back of Rebirth's ending. As a quick refresher, Jurassic World Rebirth introduced us to a new cast of characters, led by Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Mahershala Ali, taking us to a new island named St. Hubert, where only the wildest dinosaurs reside. They are sent on a secret mission to recover the DNA of 3 dinosaurs, which will unlock the pharmaceutical cure to heart disease, which is certain to earn billions. An isolated story that collides with the stranded family struggling to survive the island's perils, culminating in a showdown with some mutant dinosaurs as they narrowly escape with the DNA successfully acquired, and our leads agreeing to go open source with the cure. The end. This film felt loosely like a throwback to the Jurassic Park era of films, where you have an isolated island survival story with little to no implications on the greater universe. I had serious reservations about this film when it was announced, mainly because it was pitched as the start of a new era only 3 years after 2022's Jurassic World Dominion. Nevertheless, I watched it and quite enjoyed it, particularly for the fact that the story was relatively insulated within the Jurassic universe. It even retcons the worldwide expansion of dinosaurs in Dominion in order to achieve this insulation, a move I was personally fine with, but I know many fans were quite frustrated by. Regardless, Rebirth has come and gone, making a fair bit of bank and garnering half-decent reviews. For this video, we now turn our attention to the upcoming 8th Jurassic entry, where we will discuss potential stories and plot lines that the film should explore and steer clear from. Join me for an in-depth exploration of ideas for the next Jurassic World film. To help inform these ideas, let's start off with talking about what we know is for certain about the upcoming sequel. As of the date of this video, not a lot. We know that it's currently scheduled for the 9th of June 2028. Director Gareth Edwards is in talks to return once again in the director's chair, a decision I would be more than happy with, as I believe that Edwards is a truly talented director with shades of Spielberg in his repertoire. Just give him a truly great script and I think he can knock it out of the park. And it is expected that our main cast from Rebirth, Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Mahershala Ali, will also return for another adventure. I like their characters in Rebirth and would be more than happy to see them return. But that's pretty much it. We have no hints about story, plot, filming locations, dinosaurs, or anything else. So we have a pretty nice clean slate with which we can base our ideas for this video. As mentioned, Rebirth's story is self-contained, with all the plotlines wrapped up and our characters sailing off towards the horizon. Perhaps the only slightly open thread is how exactly Loomis and Zora's decision to go open source with the cure will affect the world. But other than that, there is no direct setup for a potential sequel. And to be clear, this video will not deal with whether we need another Jurassic film or not. Rather, I will be dealing explicitly with the reality that we are getting another Jurassic film, whether we like it or not. And with this reality in mind, what are some of the best ideas they can go with to make it as good as possible? Let's take a look at some of the possible storylines for the sequel to Rebirth. Starting off with the already mentioned open thread, potential story number 1 is the open source cure. So our main characters achieved the impossible in Rebirth, acquiring the DNA of 3 necessary dinosaurs required to create a cure for heart disease. Their initial plans of monetizing this cure have been abandoned, and they've instead opted to go open source for the betterment of society. It can't be understated the kind of power they're wielding here, having a prevention for one of mankind's most debilitating diseases. So what does the rollout of this kind of cure look like in the real world? Can it be central to the plot of a Jurassic film? My answer to that is no. The reason being that the dinosaurs are no longer required for such a story, thus disqualifying itself from Jurassic contention. I think this new film has to at least acknowledge the outcome of this cure, even if it's a throwaway line that nicely wraps up the storyline. But I think it would be a major mistake to continue with an open source cure plotline that just doesn't belong in a Jurassic film now that the dinosaurs' role in that story is over. Idea number 2 is in keeping with the story of Rebirth, aptly titled New Mission, New Cure. If the cure for heart disease was the central goal in Rebirth, why not make the sequel about finding a cure for another major disease, such as cancer? Despite the death and carnage of their mission, they were ultimately successful in acquiring the cure, so why wouldn't our characters be inspired to go back to the same island or another if the promise of a cure for cancer was on the table? It's definitely a worthy cause, particularly compared to other reasons that humans have used to go back to dinosaur islands. It has potential, but my main concern for this idea pertains to the complaints many had with Rebirth, which was that the plot resembled that of a video game. Collecting dinosaur DNA as a story does give off video game vibes, and doubling down in a sequel would definitely cause more furor amongst the fandom, whilst carrying the strong risk of being a repeat of Rebirth. In basic terms, there's much more perceived risk with this idea than there is potential to gain from. Number 3, another island adventure. A new island filled with dinosaurs to explore and horrors to overcome. This is the bread and butter of the Jurassic franchise, and there's still plenty of character development to be had for our new leads, which can be explored in a new setting with new challenges. I know your immediate reaction to this idea is, been there, done that, and you're not wrong. There are many who consider this a tired trope within the Jurassic franchise, but it's also the safest narrative to follow that ensures the film follows all the narrative beats of a typical Jurassic film. An island, dinosaurs roaming free, a team of people struggling for survival. It's a successful formula, and there's merit to pursuing it further. Following on from idea number 3, number 4 would specifically be a return to St. Hubert, the island in Rebirth. One of the strong points of Rebirth was the atmosphere they managed to cultivate that was both eerie and adventurous. I would be perfectly happy with getting more of that setting, and it would be a chance to explore the island in greater detail and unlock further mysteries. The mutant arc of Rebirth was one of my least favorite aspects of the film, but there was certainly a lot more that could have been done and explained with those creatures if given another chance. I'm 50-50 on this idea, as I did not like the mutants, but the reason I didn't like them is because they were so underserved and could have just been regular dinosaurs for all intents and purposes. Idea number 5 is an opportunity to do something unique, which would be going the anthology route and casting a new group of characters with a completely unattached story. This idea is by far the most clean slate of the lot, and it gives the filmmakers the opportunity to do basically whatever they want with the film and not be tied down to any pre-existing lore. If Jurassic World Rebirth were a completely original film with no prior entries, most viewers would watch it and believe that the story has a start, middle, and end with no basis for a sequel. That works in favor of this idea, but it would be going against the grain of the 2 previous Jurassic trilogies. These are the 5 best ideas I could come up with, and even I'll be the first to tell you that none of them are exactly begging to be made. By that I mean that all of them are basically variations of already done Jurassic films, and they don't take the franchise in any particularly new directions. So the question now is, what is the best path forward for Jurassic World post-Rebirth? I'm going to break down the next few sections into 1, my preferences, 2, what not to do, and 3, what I think they'll do. Let's run through them. So what is my preferred path forward for the Jurassic World Rebirth sequel? The island of St. Hubert stirred enough interest in me that I would be willing to explore that island with our same group of characters in further detail. Despite not being a fan of the mutants, there's still plenty of mystery surrounding the D-Rex, and if handled correctly, that can make for some true horror themes. How does its existence impact the island? What were those ancient caves with the Quetzalcoatlus nest? What other unstable dinosaurs does the island hold? There are some plot threads to tug on that could make for an interesting sequel. I could talk about my preferences all day long, but at this stage in the Jurassic franchise, I think it's just as, if not more important, to outline what not to do. It's no secret that the franchise is not in the best of shape, and the filmmakers should absolutely tread lightly before proceeding with any decisions for this next entry. I have some grace for Rebirth because by blockbuster film standards, the production of that film was very rushed. We're talking about a roughly year-and-a-half turnaround from the date of announcement to it hitting theaters. The good news this time around is that the announcement is over 2.5 years ahead of release date, which allows for some decent pre-production to take place. But as for what they should not do, if we look at the mistakes of Rebirth, I think having 2 main parties trekking the island worked against the film, making things unnecessarily convoluted and unfocused. Have one party and follow them around the island to keep things focused and the story tight. And before you say, but Jurassic Park had split parties, first of all, they spent pretty much the first half of that film together and are reunited at the start of the 3rd act. And the characters are so well developed that you feel their connection to one another, even when they're apart. Rebirth, on the other hand, had two parties with nothing to do with one another, and therefore their coming together in the third act meant nothing. For the sake of keeping things nice and simple for our filmmakers, just focus on one group, do them really well, and the outcome will be much better. Another thing to stay away from is the new dinosaur gimmick. The Jurassic World era has felt this incessant need to always introduce a hybrid, a mutant, a human clone, etc. Gimmicks that detract from the audience's pure desire to just enjoy dinosaur adventure in all their terror and majesty. I know I'm contradicting myself slightly after saying just before that I would be open to learning more about the D-Rex, but that's only because we learned nothing about it in Rebirth. For all intents and purposes, it was a wasted gimmick in Rebirth. My overall point is that these ideas to change up the dinosaurs is predicated on the idea that audiences aren't impressed by dinosaurs anymore. There always has to be a bigger, scarier one, and that's just not the case. There are infinite dinosaurs to choose from with unique characteristics that you can create original dinosaur set pieces with. You don't need to constantly subvert our love for dinosaurs by introducing a Frankenstein monster every time. It is my personal belief that Rebirth could have benefited greatly from omitting the mutants altogether and reshuffling some of the events of the film. For example, you make the T-Rex one of the 3 dinosaurs to acquire DNA from, and you make the T-Rex raft chase the climax of the film instead of the D-Rex, whereby our main characters are struggling to escape the T-Rex and the island whilst also attempting to extract DNA from it at the same time. Imagine the tension you could create from that conundrum. You swap the Mutodons for regular raptors, also chasing our main characters, and voila, you have an intense, action-packed ending with regular dinosaurs. You get that long-desired T-Rex raft scene whilst also making the T-Rex encounter necessary to the plot. It's genius. Ugh, what could have been. Anyways, let's get back on track. So I've given you my personal preferences for the sequel. I've also outlined what not to do. But what do I think the fine people at Universal will actually do with this upcoming entry? In an era of shared universes where just about every film studio is scrambling for an established IP, I would say it's a safe bet that this upcoming sequel will attempt to further expand the lore of the Jurassic universe, I dare say by coming up with another gimmick to take it in a new direction. I think this is even more certain if the main cast of Rebirth returns for the sequel. They'll do anything they can to make Jurassic a universe, despite how much I'm against this idea. As far as what story they will go with, my best guess is they will go with the version of my second idea, where our new leads will team up once again for a new mission on a new island. Rebirth was quite mission-oriented, at times outweighing the survival themes, and I believe they will continue this narrative in the sequel. It feels more reflective of current-day blockbuster cinema, which is more plot-driven rather than character-focused, generally speaking. What the mission will be? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't think they'll go for the video game-esque DNA collection type mission of Rebirth once again, after the fair amount of criticism that storytelling received. My guess is it will be a humanitarian mission, to save or rescue dinosaurs from an island with an impending threat. But who knows? Come check this video out again in June 2028 to see how close I was or wasn't. Despite the fact that my overall tone throughout this video has been mild at best, I still do hold out hope for this franchise. I want nothing more than for this 8th Jurassic film to be amazing and to recapture that magic that has long been lost. I don't have much hope for that, but you never know. Life does sometimes, find a way.